Good morning, everybody, and evening and afternoon for everyone. I thought that it would be a fun time today to say hello to you on this wonderful 23rd of December, 2021. As the title of the chat or of the video implies, today is also my birthday, and I am now another year older. Looking forward to the year ahead, and it's been a crazy couple of weeks before my birthday started, so what a fun time it's been. We managed to deal with COVID. We managed to deal with all the craziness that's going on in the world. So I figured, why not just take the time and take a little pause and enjoy today's stuff and make the most of it with all of you. So hello, hello. I'm so glad to see so many faces pour on in. And let me go retweet and let people know that we are live now, and we are good to go. Let's enjoy it. But yes, thank you, everybody. Yes, it's very nice to enjoy once again another birthday. I am 26 today, so I guess I am in what you would call the last year of your mid 20s. Steve asks, was there a stream on Sunday? And no, there was not. I did not have a Sunday stream. I was dealing with COVID. I caught the coof apparently last week, so it's literally, I think, been what's today, Thursday, so it was literally the day after the diagnosis or whatever, and it was just rough. I had slept through a good chunk of Tuesday. I slept through a good chunk of Friday, and Friday was interesting because I actually got the monoclonal antibody treatment that day. And we had looked it up originally trying to plan out how our Friday was going to go because it said somewhere around like, oh, it can take anywhere from like 2 hours to 2.5 hours. And I was like, okay, so we get to the hospital and it was so very relaxed, actually. So I'll tell the whole story. So it's very relaxed. They just literally didn't have you go anywhere. They just tell you to go to this floor, go to this room, and go up there. And I'm trying to navigate the hospital's various floors and their towers and things like that. And eventually you get up there, and it's just this little wing with just a bunch of rooms and a small center table, little conference area for registration and such. And you get in there and you go to your respective room for your appointment. You just sort of wait there. And someone finally came in, and it was just a bunch of paperwork and consents. And then they're like, okay, this should take you 30 minutes, like the whole infusion process. And it's like, fantastic, 30 minutes. That's even better. And and of course, by 30 minutes, they mean, well, 30 minutes is how long it's going to take you. But oh, by the way, you're going to have to like wait hours and hours and hours for it to actually finally get to you. So what we were hoping to be a very quick trip to the hospital, it ended up, I think we got there around 7:30, and we didn't leave until like maybe 12:15, 12:30, 12:45. Yeah, it was quite a long time, but it was fine. I felt like crap for the rest of the day, but literally that Saturday felt like a completely different person. So that stuff does work. I will tell you that much. So if I can beat it, someone who's on immunosuppressants and manage to have the antibody treatment, and I'm already recovering and doing well, and I do have videos planned for you guys before the year's end, then I can tell you that I'm incredibly blessed, and it has been a very, very good year. There's a lot to be thankful for, despite everything that, of course, has been happening around the world and what we've been talking about. No black pills today is going to be the goal for today's stream. Is no black pilling, and we're going to enjoy a wonderful 23rd of December. We're going to enjoy a birthday. We're going to enjoy the year, and we're all going to just hang out and have a very good time. So for everyone who's been saying happy birthday in the chat, I'm very thankful. It's been a crazy year, but I'm doing quite well. But let's lighten things up a tad, shall we? Let's put a nice, lovely image on, so you're not just looking at my Christmas-themed profile picture for today. Let's see. And there we go. Perfect. That's delightful. That's exactly what we're going to do. So, image, open image in new tab, and there we go. We'll share that image with you guys. Will I be having cake? Asks Forged in the Ashes. Probably not, actually. I think instead it's going to just simply be, I think we opted to get pie this year. So let me go share screen real quick. So there we go. Let's Jedi Knight Anakin Cringewalker for $5 US says the Kuth lowered your voice enough for me to differentiate it from all the other NRX boys. Well, then that is something I will take. I will be quite happy with the fact that my voice is just a tad bit deeper. I'm still a little congested, but other than that, I feel perfectly fine. I know for other people it affects everyone differently. Like, I still get a little winded easily, but then again, I'm just still kind of recovering. But hey, if that means my voice is just slightly deeper, I'm going to take that as a win for me. Mark 838 says, go for cheesecake. Well, that actually sounds like a very pleasant option. I'm probably going to look into that then later today. But I will be with my family for a good chunk of today afterwards. So I figured I would hang out with all of you in the morning and spend the rest of the day with my family. I did buy myself a little gift, though, and I was going to tweet about it later. But I did manage to have my copy of the Jordanville prayer book come in. So it's the largest collection of Orthodox Christian prayer in English. So I was really, really happy with how it came in. It looks very pretty, and it's very nicely done, and how it looks with the prayers themselves was I'm very happy with it. That was my gift to myself. Cheesecake is top tier. I wholeheartedly agree. It's one of my favorite desserts of all time. But yeah, well, thank you all so much for the super chats. I appreciate it. Chris says, happy birthday, and I hope that you and your family have a Merry Christmas. Well, we're all here together, and I think that that's what's important. So it's going to be a good Christmas, I think. We're all here together. Everyone is in good health and in good spirits, and to me, I think that is exactly what matters. Dan asks, am I getting any based books for my birthday? Well, I have a laundry list of based books that I still need to finish reading, so instead of adding to the reading pile that I think is literally as tall as me if I were to stack all the books up, I'm 5'10", for instance, so I don't want to, add on to that list. There are plenty that I'm going to be reading through. I finished recently reading Unrestricted Warfare based on Semyagog's recommendation, and he also recommended a strategic atlas from, the 1990s, which is a really good map or a really good way to view maps and view things from a different perspective rather than just your basic form of just geography. And I think I'll put that on screen. So if you guys haven't read it, you should, because Strategic Atlas. There we go. This was the book that Semyagog recommended to me. And yeah, no, it was a really, really good read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So let me open up the image and I will share it with you all so you all can see what I have been reading. So share screen, share image. Yeah, so this is what I've recently finished reading. And I mean, it's not like it was a difficult read, but it was definitely very eye-opening and very, very good. Michael Noctor asks, is it time to start Christmas drinking? Well, as a transplant patient, I am unfortunately a teetotaler, not by choice. So you could sort of say it's involuntary. It's like a sober cell, I guess. So I'm having a lovely cup of coffee instead, which has been my primary vice of choice since all of this had started. And that's exactly what Raging Mandrill says. I realized I'm drinking coffee out of my frog mug. Well, Mr. Mandrill, so am I. I am drinking my cup of coffee out of my Frog of the Week mug. Insob, yes, involuntarily sober. That's definitely me. But yeah, Jacob, no, Semyagog recommended it to me, and thank you so much for the $10. He says happy birthday and Merry Christmas, and I wish you all the same. Is Prue competing with Justin Trudeau for Christmas birthday? Oh no, when was Justin Trudeau born? Don't ruin this for me. Justin Trudeau birthday. Don't ruin this for me. Oh no, he was born on Christmas. Okay, not my problem. Steve asks, why is Quebec separate there? For the same reason that it breaks down various ethnicities and so on and so forth, and various cultural and political movements. And also keep in mind this was like 1990, I think, when it was originally published. So there's a lot of talks about like separatist movements and various other like ethnic and political struggles in there. It's I mean, it's good stuff. I recommend it. Anytime that Semiagog recommends something to me on geography based off of his late friend Tim and their readings, I will automatically pick it up, because if there's one gentleman that I really enjoy having geopolitical conversations with, it's definitely Semiagog. He's definitely one of my favorites. Wasn't Quebec rich with oil and thus subject to increased U.S. attention? If I recall correctly, they had a referendum, I think it was, late 80s, early 90s, where it was about the discussion over Parte 51, right? They were trying to be the 51st state, and I know that did not pan out successfully, politically speaking. Tuesday says, I've been reading Our Time by Ernest Hemingway, 1925. It's a weird book, mostly magazine fiction articles he wrote in the 1920s. I have not read enough Ernest Hemingway, to be honest with you. I have read a few short stories of his. I think they make you read his like White Elephants in college, and I read Farewell to Arms, but I haven't read a lot of his other works. I know that he was quite prolific in his writings after both the war and writing a lot of magazine and essays and editorial pieces. So something I'll probably have to follow up on. Let's see. Let's take a look here. Mark says, every Christmas I bake a brownie-based chocolate ganache cheesecake with my family. It's wonderful. Well, it sounds wonderful. I'm going to just share that on screen, because that does sound absolutely delicious. But yes, if you have not heard, yes, his good friend Tim did pass away not too long ago. He has a whole stream on it celebrating his life and his memories. So yeah, no, it was terrible to hear, because I've been following. I think Semiagog is probably one of the first people in sort of the AA circle spheres that I had followed, because I had found him through like Millennial years ago, and Semiagog followed, and then I found AA through Sargon, and then I found everybody else. So it's definitely a fun time when you start going through your like YouTube consumption history of everyone and things like that. You're like, oh, I've been listening to these people for years, and now you get to talk to them and hang out with them and be on streams with them. It's definitely something that you kind of can't believe sometimes, you know. But on top of the Strategic Atlas, I've been reading Unrestricted Warfare, also on Semiagog's recommendation, so that will probably be a future Prudent Reads episode. So yeah, no, it'll be lots of stuff in the future for reading. And then afterwards, I definitely have a few more things that I want to finish. I'm currently churning through on Power by Bertrand de Juvenel, since that seems to be the hot new thing that everyone's talking about today. And after that, I kind of want to get into some history stuff. So I found some old stuff based on my some stuff that was passed down from the family that are on some Civil War stuff from the Southern perspective. So some biographies on Civil War generals and places where there were some battle sites. So I think I'm going to be doing some history stuff in the near future as well. I thought that would be a fun time, since my area of history that I studied in college was on early American history, specifically the Revolutionary Conflict and the founding of the American Constitution. So, like, I know all the ins and outs and the details of the 1787 convention in Philadelphia, but the more I think about constitutionalism, the more I want to think, I should probably read more other people who are more maybe anti-constitutionalists. So De Maistre is on my list as well, and I know that Carlsbad has been translating Ludwig von Haller, so I have been reading his blog and his work as well, which I found really interesting. So I'm glad that there are people out there who are more linguistically inclined, so they can help us, the rest of us, read these great things. Mandrill asks, Unrestricted Warfare stream when? Probably late January. So that'll be the case. Mark asks, what Civil War books were those? Well, I have them right in front of me. So if you hear me shifting some books around, I can tell you. So they are going to be So I have an old copy of it's called Lee and His Generals, and then the other one is going to be called Southern History of the War, and that's those are the two texts. They are pre 1965 publications, so I'm very much looking forward to them because I don't think that they're going to be as paused when it comes to certain narratives that exist. So it's not going to have that post 1965 narrative that comes with it. But yeah, those are probably going to be on my reading list more so that I'll flip through for leisurely reading. Whereas some of the more in depth stuff that I want to do will definitely be more oriented around what's the word I'm looking for. I think more international relations texts, because the problem is that like you can find some like really well done authors or commentary pieces, but books I think sometimes are harder to find because so many of the books are based around contemporary issues, right? Like I've mentioned this on the stream in the past, where like if you get books on China, right? Um, there was like a period of time I think from like 2012 to like 2015 where everyone was writing a book on China, especially because Xi Jinping just took power, and it was all about like, oh, when China rules the world, or the West has like three options with China: cooperation, competition, or conflict. And some of them can age really well, and others not so much. So it's always hard when you're dealing with like contemporary writers when they're looking more so to quickly get a book in rather than having an actual complete holistic analysis of the issue. So I do want to in the future put more effort into finding more good books when it comes to international relations, which is why when I did my book stream, I did put a lot of emphasis on history, because if you don't have a good historical context or a good historical understanding for what you're talking about, even if it's just the last 50 years, right? Because the last 50 years of policy, of course, is going to have the most direct impact. If you don't know that, it's going to be very hard for you to make an accurate prediction or to have good analysis. So, if you're ever interested in doing sort of the IR stuff or wanting to know more about geopolitical events, I think history is required, along with that book I showed on screen earlier, the Strategic Atlas. So knowing your geography, right, is essential, and knowing your history is just as important. Steve says Thomas Barrett wrote two books where he thought China would be a U.S. partner in upholding the world order. Well, I think Thomas Barrett kind of got it wrong there, don't you think? We had that conversation a lot. There was Thomas Barnett, gotcha. Um, and I mean, but that's how it works, right? Though is that there was that huge chunk of like establishmentarian thinking that came out, especially from like 1995 onwards. Not to, I'm gonna just use my age, right? So for like the last 26 years, you've seen this sort of weird push when it comes to, oh well, through trade liberalization comes democratization, which comes to a more open and free society. We would expect that China would democratize, which of course the exact opposite happened, right? Wherein we saw over the last 26 years, especially, right, the immediate clampdown. They're all state-owned enterprises. As Xi has taken power, right, and it's becoming more permanent. The sort of billionaire tech class that has been sort of more open in terms of criticism or siding with political rivals has been silenced. You don't hear as much from Jack Ma. You'll have seen reports about how like China's executed 47 billionaires this year. So clearly that wasn't how it panned out. The idea of this partner upholding the world order, again, that goes back to the sort of question, right, that we found ourselves with when it comes to the current situation, right? Where it's like, okay, it goes back to that question we talked about on the last Sunday stream with Dr. Mitra's questions. Is it a revisionist power or is it a status quo power, right? And do you want to maintain the world order and do you want to have it in your favor? Do you want to change things? And yeah, no. Yes, Edward Pollard is the author, Mark. It is. That is exactly the book I have in front of me, is The Southern History of the War by Edward Pollard. I'll put that on screen. So if anyone's interested, this is the copy of the text that I have for on the Civil War. Enjoying my cup of coffee out of my Frog of the Week mug, which I will share with you because there are going to be on some there's a new design. So let me go share Chrome tab. So here is the new design. So let me zoom in there for you real quick. So yeah, my good friend, he's our lovely, as he calls himself on Telegram. I don't know if he's changed his name, and he calls himself Art Ho, and then in parentheses male. And he's the gentleman that has done all of our lovely designs on the Teespring store. So if you have yourself a Frog of the Week mug, there's a new design, and of course this comes in t-shirts and hoodies and things like that. There's also the Frogman Burke sock, so it's Pepe's head sort of overlaid with a Edmund Burke portrait. But yeah, he's been the wonderful gentleman who has been helpful for me in getting these things all out there. Mongolian Doggerland says, Dawn was very early. I think when it was back when it was like 2 Pleb Media, or it was just 2, when he still had his buddy doing the show. But let's see here. But yeah, I think the pipeline for me was at least like I found Semiagog super early, and I always found his stuff interesting, especially the Chainsmoke series with Tim. And then I just found like JF that way. I found, and this is while I'm still watching Sargon through college. And then through Sargon, you find AA. And then through AA, I found Charlemagne. And then I found the Distributist. I found virtually like everybody else. And then all the while, right, I moved to like the countryside, and my like opinions like move way to the right. And that's where we are now. And after years of being asked my opinion on things, because I was always in sort of like that polite liberal collegiate company, and where people would ask me for the opinion of sort of like the right wing perspective or the right of center perspective. And I was like, well, I've been listening and consuming, and the consumer me when it comes to content. Why not put myself out there, right? And put my opinions out there. So in October of 2020, that's what we did it. No one says Sargon must have been a gateway for so many, including me. Yeah, I think so. I definitely think that Sargon does. I think he realizes that he has been slowly this pipeline to more based content creators as well as more religious people. I'm so glad, for instance, right, that Lambda is using his name and is out there with his faith. And he was with the Lotus Eaters a couple of the month and a half ago. So that was really awesome to see. And that makes me very happy that he's doing that. And I'm glad that he is encouraging others to do the same. So for those of you who are in the United States and planning to go to the event in February, I will be there. So if you are interested in knowing exactly what the hell I look like, besides my backside when I'm fishing, you'll definitely know that. Farbot says, do you remember pre-face reveal Sargon? 2014, 2015 Sargon? Yeah, I remember that. That feels like a lifetime ago. I remember tweeting. I tweeted this out a while back, and I'm gonna have to find the tweet for you all because I thought it's hilarious. Where it was his the thumbnail to his VidCon 2017 video, and I couldn't help but laugh because it's the time where Anita Sarkeesian called him like a garbage human or whatever in front of everybody. And I said, this feels like 100 years ago or something like that. It was like a century ago. And I mean, that's the thing with the internet and being, I guess, with, your finger on the pulse of like internet personalities and politics is that you are on a weird kind of stimulant where you're just constantly bombarded with the goings on or the era of internet blood sports and things like that. And I always find that stuff really interesting, right? Because it's a totally different time. And you kind of think about, all of the things that have happened. Like, for instance, even in just sort of like the AA sphere, right? Or like, remember Trumpton? That felt like a decade ago. Like, who the hell still talks about that, right? Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's how it went. Tuesday says, I went from a guy called Monday, F.A. Monday, to Millennial Woes, to the Distributist, to the Prudentialist, to Academic Agent, to the whole UO sphere. Well, Tuesday, you found a variety of good people that way. Millennial Woes has been doing this stuff for years, and I mean, he for sure has created something especially with millennial, right? Like it's such a great way to find new people and to find people that you may not have listened to or followed. I was listening to good lord, who was I listening to earlier today that was on millennial? Because Odyssey has not been very cooperative with my internet lately, so I have been listening to the VODs and stuff like that rather than just the things that have been going on instantly. For instance, I was Nick's Geely or GLV, right? And that's how I found him, was just reading his stuff, and he was he's on Millennial, and so I started following him, and then somebody had posted an article he wrote apparently about the potential for instead of Caesar, right? It's like Ataturk, all of which, right? It seems interesting, so I'm gonna have to like follow him and read more about what he does and what the work he is. So, I mean, when we talk about like pipelines, I think that Mr. Woes is definitely up there. So, and now most of the people in AA's orbit are on Millennial this year. I know Turnip was on there, Apostolic Majesty was on, so was the Distributist, so was Semigog is on later today. So if you're not tuned in, you should be. I think this is a return appearance for Semigog, so I'm very happy with it. And I believe AA, this was also his second appearance this year. So, I mean, fantastic stuff, And Computing Forever, oh my god. I still hate the fact that he's banned off YouTube, but I mean, oh man, I would listen to him all the time. Whether it was the How Is This a Thing or just his own stuff. I mean, the fact that he has put so much work into the last 2 years over all of this Coof business has been fantastic. Just in him and the work that he does in Ireland is just wow. Yeah, like Dave Cullen is a hero in my book. That man is an international treasure, and he still has his regular like commentary show as well. I know that Dave Cullen's mainly on like Odyssey, and he's got his own other platforms as well. But like his regular old like sci-fi and like pop culture media thing are still on stuff like that. So no, I'm glad that we can still find him, which I'm very happy with. But yeah, I agree with you. Computing Forever woke me up to the issues. Definitely, the fact that he was talking about a lot of these things with professionals and medical people months before everybody else was. Man, was that guy on point. Oro Post says, "Happy birthday, Prude dude." Well, thank you so much for the $4.99. I really appreciate it. So I hope that you're doing well. I know that you've been streaming a lot more, and you had a really good conversation with Conscious Caracol earlier, or a post. So thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it, man. I hope that you're doing fine in Houston today. But Merry Christmas to one and all, and I hope that you have a chance this year to be with your families, and that you'll have all that. So I do plan on giving a more sort of official Christmas address as well. So let me go open up Studio so I can catch up with everybody's super chats, and we'll knock them out. But I figured that we'd spend this morning and enjoy it. King of Games says, I found Anti-Dem on Millennial. It sucks that he is just on Gab. Yeah, I mean, there's been a push for us to also have a Gab presence. So I made an account last January in case I were to ever get yeeted off Twitter. I need to start using it more, but I'm still on Twitter, so I really don't want to like leave yet. Bolero says for $9.99, he says, "Happy birthday, Prude. Good job on Unpopular Opinions yesterday or the other day." Well, thank you. I thought it was fun. I didn't expect that I would just be given the floor like that to talk about the whole Russia and Ukraine issue, and on top of the Chile president-elect as well. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on there. Mark 838 says, Dave's last vid asking if people would be interested in him going over more old school films and shows. It's always nice to get good entertainment recommendations. I would like that. I wish he would, and I hope that he does, because that's something that I kind of appreciate that Morgoth and Endeavor do, where they'll go over sort of classic films and things like that. And I know that Morgoth reviewed a film, I think a year ago, where it was just like an old 1930s film talking about, moving out of the city and things like that. And I enjoy it. And as I told, I had a movie day with patrons not too long ago. So if you decide to support me on Subscribestar or be a channel member, you'll get access to a Discord where we'll all be in a voice chat together going over movies. And we watched the movie Her 2013 not too long ago. And there was just so much to talk about. I think after the film ended, we were still on the call for like an hour and a half, just talking about all of the things that we kind of subtly picked up on and noticed. So in 2022, expect like a series of maybe 3 or 4 videos, just reviewing that movie. Which, I mean, like in 2013, he's just like, oh, it's all, this great idea to postulate and talk about things, and things like that. And then we just started pointing out how like dystopic this is, how Bugman it was like, how awful it was just to live in a world where everything is fake and things like that. Just absolutely insane. So yeah, that we will be diving into the world of movie reviews in 2022 for sure. Geo says, oh, he popped in Giant Art Productions. Happy same birthday. The same to you. So Geo is also shares a birthday on the 23rd of December. He is a few years older than I am. He is 29 today. So if you haven't tweeted at or commented on one of Geo's videos wishing him a happy birthday today, by all means, I hope that you do. Geo's a fantastic guy. And it's we were funny about that. We were laughing, I think, when we were doing the pain and consciousness and religion stream, where we were both joking about how our birthdays are on the same day. Gio, if you're still listening in chat, then we need to talk sometime, because I know that we wanted to do a discussion on Ben-Hur, and I would love to do that because it's still one of my all-time favorite movies. King of Games says, I have a Gab since early 2019. I have 3 posts since and 200 followers somehow. Have no idea. I don't use it at all. And my New Year's resolution is to use Gab. Well, I should probably do the same. Hunger for $2 asks me, what is my favorite Christmas movie and why? Here, we'll just put that on screen. That's a good discussion. I have a variety of Christmas movies that I really enjoy. I don't know if I have a de facto favorite one. I think that the long-standing tradition, and the older I get, is been the idea of the Charlie Brown Christmas special, just because you have the famous scene where Linus recites the Gospel of Luke, and the older I've gotten and the more religious I've gotten, the more that I like the fact that is out there. As for like feel-good Christmas movies and things that I really enjoy, as to why, there are 2 that I really do like. I know it's kind of weird where it's like this, but it's got a weird anti-materialist message. I really enjoy Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is always fun because he acts like a complete monster when he gets closer to this doll. But I love how it just escalates the situation and it continuously takes it seriously. Like, I love the idea that Arnold Schwarzenegger is brought to this like crappy, ugly looking like stockyard shipping container area where all of a sudden he's like fighting with Jim Belushi and a bunch of other like ex-con mall Santas, and they basically rip that scene out from Indiana Jones where he's got to fight a guy who's like twice his size and taller than him. And he has to duck, and then all of a sudden the dwarf who's dressed as an elf is just like flying 50 feet, where it's just not at all remotely realistic. I love it. I think it's great because it plays it straight, even though the situation and your suspension of disbelief is just it's gone, right? Like, that's definitely up there. Other than that, I would definitely say Die Hard. We watched that yesterday. I put it up on a whim, and it was just a genuinely feel-good film the entire way through, and that's up there. And then definitely Gremlins. You can't go wrong with that one. Gremlins is definitely up there for just fun family Christmas movies where, oh, by the way, enjoy like gremlin green and guts all over the kitchen scene with the mom, where she's where Can You See What I See is playing in the background, and it's played up for like horror and tension, and it's such a good set piece because it's definitely up there where she's just like using all of the kitchen stuff, and she's got to fight back and using the microwave and the blender and all of the crappy inventions that the husband puts up. I really enjoy that one a lot. And then the sequel is just as ridiculous, right? But yeah, so those are some of my favorites. Hunger. Stonehat says, not a Christmas film, but I watch War Games every Christmas. Quite sobering, isn't it? Even today, right, when we talk about a world of like nuclear weapons. But yeah, War Games is a fantastic film. Tuesday says, my favorite Christmas media would be Red Letter Media's Best of the Worst Christmas episodes. God, I love Red Letter Media. I know I'm simply love Red Letter Media for the fact that I can watch everybody just get used to, but I think that it still grates on them when they listen to his ear-piercing laugh. I think everyone kind of knows it, but it's also weird to see Rich Evans just age over the course of all this time. And then, Jay has just gotten progressively more fit and he continues to look younger, even though they're all sort of aging at the same rate. It's just weird. It's like he's sucking the life force out of everybody else around them. And Jay still looks good. But yeah, no, I love Red Letter Media. Best of the Worst is probably one of the favorite things that they do. I like all of the gimmicks they have. I get to enjoy the Black Spine edition, all of their weird, like the pachinko machine, where they just do all sorts of crazy gags and stuff. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Tuesday, Rich Evans looks old as shit. Rich Evans has not aged well at all, whereas everyone else looks okay. Let's see. Raging Mandrill says, Full Metal Jacket is a Christmas movie. No, I will not elaborate. And that's perfectly fine. You don't need to elaborate. Attach GigaChat image. Stonehat says, also the Snowman. Is that are you like referring to like the Jack Frost one where he gets turned into the what's the word I'm looking for? He gets turned into a snowman or whatever, and he's just trying to like be with his son. That's definitely up there. And then I'm trying to think of all these other good Christmas movies to watch. A Wonderful Life, right? The most famous, I think, of what we would call like the American Christmas movie canon. Which I always like. I always enjoy learning very early on that apparently it bombed at the box office. I didn't know that, and now it's this like American treasure, and everyone knows it for what it is. But yeah, I did not know that it bombed at the box office. Let's see here. Into the Line, Joel. Oh, the '80s cartoons. Are you referring to like Frosty the Snowman? But actually, let's see. Let's go look up some more Christmas films and things like that. Because now we're talking about Christmas movies. I'm now in a very festive mood. Steve says Jimmy Stewart was a real life badass. I do not know enough about him to agree, but I mean, I'm gonna say yes and go with it. I hate to say this, but Home Alone 2 is a must for me. Home Alone 2 follows the same sort of like what's the word? The whole sequel idea of like the 1990s and also like the 80s, right? Where it was just you got to do the same thing, but it's got to be bigger. I immediately think of Predator 2 as like the go-to example of this, where it was like, okay, it's going to be we move from the forest. Right now it's the concrete jungle of Los Angeles, and it's a few years in the future where there's this really bad heat wave and drought. That's for sure up there, I think now. So yeah, no. And Home Alone 2 does the same thing. Instead of having it in like domestic suburban USA, middle class America, we're gonna go to the big city, and we're gonna just somehow, by some happenstance, the city of millions of people, we're gonna run into the wet bandits or the sticky bandits, whatever they call themselves. You just can't help but chuckle at that. Jedi Knight Anakin Cringewalker for $5 US says, the entire 1992 Batman animated series also takes place in December, if I recall correctly. I watch it every few years. I grew up watching a couple of episodes, but I don't think I ever I don't think I've ever seen the whole thing through. So literally the whole series takes place just in December. Like that's the entire time frame is like a month. That's an incredibly quick, time frame. But yeah. Let's see here. But yeah, Predator 2 took place in Los Angeles, and I didn't think it was that bad. I don't think it's as bad as people give it credit for or give it heat for. And it leaves you with that weird sort of setup thing about, oh, they've been here before, and oh, the Predators have fought alien. We get the entire AVP stuff from that little Easter egg in the background at the end of Predator 2. I certainly liked it. I thought it was good. Maybe I'm just a sucker for Donald Glover. Who knows? Way. Yes, he puts up something that I actually really enjoy. White Christmas is pretty fun. Bing Crosby is such a good singer. I wholeheartedly agree. And Irving Berlin is one of the most prolific early American songwriters, and which is always kind of interesting, right? Because he writes White Christmas, and he wrote so many other great sort of hits of the time without being Christian. Irving Berlin, for instance, is Jewish, but he wrote White Christmas, and he wrote a variety of others. I love, for instance, Irving Berlin's Putting on the Ritz, like the original, like references to Harlem and everything. And yeah, no, it's really good. And Irving Berlin is, I think, someone that deserves more attention. But yeah, I love Bing Crosby. I love a lot of what came from that era. And in fact, if you have any streaming services, I know that White Christmas is on Netflix. So if that's something that you're going to watch with your family, then I would highly recommend that you watch it. It's a lot of good fun. Let's see. Dagbreaker says, "Merry Christmas and have a happy birthday." Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. Arthur is a good animated Christmas movie. It's cheesy and wholesome. I read Arthur and I'm immediately thinking of the PBS cartoon, so I'm not too sure. But now I'm going to have to go look this up. Arthur Christmas movie. Let's see. Are you referring to like the 2011 thing with James McAvoy, or is there something else that I'm missing? Do let me know in the chat. Let's see here. Tuesday says, "No, man, I like the Elvis Christmas songs as well as the Texas-themed Christmas songs. Elvis does have some very good it's Christmas as well music. There's a whole era of just like really well done, and I know that it kind of fits in with that sort of like baby boomer era of like popular culture and things like that. But yeah, no, the 1950s and 60s has such a variety of stuff that are just really unique takes on Christmas music, as well as like their own original stuff, which sometimes gets brought up when you like something that I do enjoy about the Fallout games, right? Is where you'll have the radio on and it's older music and stuff like that, where it's older takes on things. You get exposed to different types of music. I really enjoy the fact that some of that stuff exists. I mean, the internet, I think, has been a disaster, right, for how we engage socially and how our social networks interact with one another. I think that's been like really mind warping for a good chunk of the population. But there's still that sense, I think, of 90s wonder for me, where like the fact that I can make friends with somebody in South Africa. And for instance, like Conscious Caracol and we talk very often, not on stream or anything, but I will literally turn on my webcam and he and I will like chat for 90 minutes. And he recommended Mr. Bones to me, actually, which was this weird 2001 South African comedy, just where like this white child from like survives a plane crash and he's raised as the witch doctor to this tribe, and the king is asking him to go find an heir, and it's in something entirely different. And I think I'm going to have to write something about it or do a stream with him. But his recommendation, based on our chats, right, is how I know that this movie exists and all of the other work that he has done for comedy. And I find that to be something that I truly enjoy. But you don't have that too often. Like even now in 2021, how many people kind of still have that sense of like awe about who they talk to and things like that. I love that stuff. I still do. Like if I were to go on my Subscribestar right now, and you can break it down by who sends it to you via country. And there are people from Poland, there are people from Japan, the U.S., Norway, the U.K., and that blows my mind. Right? That there's this things like that still exist. We have this weird, strange international community that you're not alone. You know, as we played on the Kyle Rittenhouse stream, Dawn's little video about how you are not alone. And to me, that's what matters. Dagbreaker says, "Mr. Bones is set where it was filmed and is one of the most scenic areas. Broderstrom. Okay, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was sort of, I guess what you could call what filmed on location. Uh, so yeah, no, I find it was really fun to watch, especially as an American who doesn't know sort of all the ins and outs of like the racial tropes and stereotypes in South Africa. It's definitely a fun time. But yeah, Jacob says it's an international cabal of nationalists. Absolutely, it sure is. We are all various forms of nationalists. There are monarchists, there are reactionaries, there are all kinds of people here. And no, it blows my mind, like even as Tactical Droid put it perfectly in the chat, maybe the real reactionary praxis was the friends we made along the way. And to me, I think that that's very true sometimes, because I get blown away by the fact that I've had so many conversations with people like that. It's a very good time. And to me, the fact that here we are now with like 4,000, almost 4,500 people that are subscribed that get to tune in and watch the show or like the fishing videos and things like that. To me, that just it blows my mind. I love that stuff, and I'm very thankful. Wacky Blarg says the mailman Sinbad has some good quotes, and he knows what's going on because he watches TV. I watched it not too long ago, and I couldn't help but chuckle at the fact that almost every other line that comes out of his mouth was just this sort of very, I guess, played for straight laughs or references to like the racials going on of the 1990s. Like he referenced Rodney King, he referenced Jesse Jackson. He mentioned sickle cell anemia, which I was just thinking to myself, wow, these are all of like the times of like the late 90s, early 2000s. And you don't really get to see that. It's very interesting. Something I just picked up on. I wrote about it in that Substack post I put out the other day because I thought that it was important to just put something out while I was recovering. But now we are referencing various Christmas carols in the chat, and I love that. I will make a confession. I don't think I've ever gone caroling in my life. Although I've done, when I was younger, I used to do choir and theater work and things like that. I still do. I'm a huge theater nerd. And in fact, when I was in college, I got to be in a production of Company. I got to play Robert. So, heaven forbid, there's probably a recording of me somewhere out there singing Being Alive for someone to find. So, who knows? But yeah, no, I have yet to actually go caroling, but I do enjoy all of the hymns that come with the holidays. I love "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." Someone pointed out in chat. That's definitely up there with one of my favorite ones. Silent Night, all of the good ones. Dan asks, "Can I sing now?" I'm not going to sing now. My voice and throat and air is definitely up there, and not my best. But if I ever do things in a more appropriate setting where like I can actually have like recording space and not where I usually do my stuff, yeah, no, I would happily sing something for y'all. There are a few things that I think I can sing pretty well. Mono says, a theater kid, don't let Oren know. I definitely did. I did theater. I did some singing stuff. I definitely did. And then, of course, I did speech and debate throughout high school and college to a great degree of success. I like to say in job interviews, I have these lovely pewter metal plates that say I'm really good at talking out of my ass. And I do. What non-Christmas albums do I like to play at Christmas time? I have a collection of like CDs of, I play a lot of jazz. I know it's not a very popular genre of music in some of these circles. I know that a lot of people don't like it, but I really do. So I play a lot of Chet Baker, actually, when I'm driving or when I'm on the road doing something like that. I thoroughly enjoy Chet Baker's music. I like the stuff where he actually sings because I love his voice because it doesn't match his face. And Chet's face for sure is just it doesn't match his singing voice, and that's an obscure pleasure when someone has a set of pipes on them that you don't really expect, and he's up there for me for sure. Yes, I know, angry Evola noises. I know, Sumi. I am a sucker for good jazz. I am deeply subversive in that way. But yeah, no, I love that stuff. So I play Chet Baker. I'll play some Miles Davis, some Benny Goodman especially. So yeah, there's a lot of jazz that comes in that area. Into the line, Joel says AA smokes cigars, which is degenerate. He is a central fed. Well, I used to smoke cigars, and that's something that I used to do at like straight out of high school. Is that once you got old enough to purchase tobacco and things like that, which of course at the time was um, you could buy it at 18 instead of 21. I don't know why they changed the law. That doesn't do anything, I think, in my opinion. But I thoroughly enjoy. I love cigars, and that's something that we would do. Is that after work or after university classes, we would pick a day because I used to live in El Paso, so it was very hot, and we would all sit in the back and just enjoy a good cigar by the fire and just talk for like hours on end, and it would be about virtually anything and everything. And we all studied different things too, where it was whether it was politics, whether it was the world around us, whether it was physics or space or things like that, things that you get to appreciate in your youth when you're having conversations with friends. And there's that meme that goes around, right, where it shows sort of that glass kitchen, outside patio table with where the glass is kind of it's got that like weird, like if you pressed your thumb against it, how you would like smear paint. It's kind of like that. And it's like, oh, if you didn't have like late night conversations at 2 a.m. with your friend, like what did you do during your summer, And to me, that I've had that stuff. So I always hope that in these times that you can find a good company like that. Which is kind of funny, right? Because there was a point in time with AA cigar streams where they would actually light up and have a cigar. And I think that that's absolutely essential in good company, and to have a cigar and to enjoy things like that. So I don't do it anymore for obvious reasons, but yeah, no, I think that if there's some sort of vice that you are to enjoy, I think the healthiest of them all is going to be a good cup of coffee. Uh, Tactical Droid says, I never drank, smoked, or took drugs, and I'm Eastern European. Well, then God is on your side, Tactical Droid, and I appreciate your sobriety. Tuesday says, I do a lot of smoking at work. It keeps me from getting too angry with all the university hires I'm stuck with. Well, I think that you should always just appreciate your health more importantly. And this is coming from somebody who has had some interesting brushes with his health over the last, 18 months for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, it's something definitely to think about when you get when all of this started, right? So last June in 2020, when all of this had begun, the way that they sort of started beginning to explain what my diet was going to be like and how you had to have restrictions on things, I was like, wow, I'm probably going to walk out of this healthier than I ever have been. And to an extent, that's probably true. I have. And then the transplant happened, and they're like, oh, you can enjoy all the food that you used to have when before all this happened, so enjoy. And so I did, and the things I think I missed the most, of course, were like chocolate and so on. So I definitely did all those things. So I've gained a tad bit of weight. I need to start working out more again. Warrior Spirit says what you're saying is that you like smoked frogs. Never had them. Only smoked salmon for me. I've never had frogs. Actually, I've never had frog legs or anything like that. To me, that just doesn't sound like something I'm going to ever really get into. Especially now that I have this part of the brand, right, is the frog. So I don't think I'm going to do it. But I do love smoked salmon. So that goes up there with the whole chef's kiss kind of deal. But yeah. It is. It's been a fun time actually, and I quite enjoy it, and I hope that everyone else has as well. Uh, but no, I am. I'm 26. I think that's what the last year of your mid 20s, because then it goes 27, 28, 29. Right? Those are your late 20s. So that's what I have to look forward to now. But no, I couldn't be happier. It's 2021. We've managed to beat a variety of things, whether that's kidney failure and now more recently the coof. I certainly cannot complain. Life is very good. Frogs are kosher, but not halal. Prudentialist, you just outed yourself as a camel. That's funny. If you like jazz, you should check out Niels Henning Orsted Peterson. Okay. Let me go open up a new tab and add that to the list. Okay, cool. All right. I will. He is on my list. Tactical Droid says, I have to go now. I have to work on my Space Marine C application. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that then. Tuesday says, I've had a couple of nightmares about having cancer 1 or 2 years apart, and it scares the hell out of me. How do you handle your body betraying you, Prude? That's a good question. I don't think about it all that much, actually. I kind of know the consequences of the medications I'm taking, which is basically poison, and that might eventually come back to bite me in the ass. But I try my best not to think about it in the way that it's out of my control at this point. How I view it, right, and this has been my viewpoint since it all started, has been I have been granted a new lease on life, and that I am going to make the most of what has been given to me. So whether that, of course, be going back to faith, or going back to being more conscientious about service and community and actually being more involved in it. I certainly don't try and panic over those kinds of things. I try not to. In part because I know eventually I'm going to have to cross some bridges when I get there. I know that my lifespan has been shortened because of all of this, but I don't sit and think about it, because the more that you try and panic over that sort of thing, or you worry about things that are outside of your control, then that stuff will dominate you, right? And then start mandating your behavior, and it might change your position on how you want to act with your life forward. And I can't let myself do that. I still consider myself a relatively young man, and I don't think that that is something that I want to determine, or worry about or be dependent on, because once you give something that level of power, right? Because dependency is another word for power, then you've trapped yourself into that state of either helplessness or things like that, So there are things I know that I'm going to have to eventually deal with, right, medically speaking, but to me, I'm not worried. I have put it within the hands of the good Lord, and just like with this Koof thing, right? I chuckled and I said, if this is it, then so be it, right? But if it's not, which I don't think it is, then I think then the good Lord has a plan for me, and from there I don't worry. So I hope that you don't as well. I mean, there are plenty of things to worry about, right? Especially if you make bad lifestyle choices. But if you're a relatively healthy man, then do your best not to worry. Now, I mean, if you have a medical history within your family, of course, keep it in mind. But no. King of Games asks, are you going to midnight mass? I won't be able to because my municipality has me put at a 9 p.m. curfew. I'm actually super pissed. So my church's schedule is that they're going to have the everything on the 26th. So they'll start services early. So, but they are having a nativity sort of service, and of course the regular Saturday Vespers on Christmas Day at 5:00 in the afternoon. I will probably go. So, but no midnight mass, unfortunately, over here for us, which makes me a little upset. But they moved everything super early on the morning after, on the 26th. So I will just go to both. I will go to the nativity service. I will go to Vespers on Saturday afternoon, and then I will go. I think they're doing the 3rd and 6th hours, and then they're doing Divine Liturgy at my church. So, yeah, that's how it is. Stonehat says, the only problem with this corner of the internet is how fast your reading list grows and how hard you have to search to buy them. This is very true. It's very frustrating to go about in doing so, which is why our good friend, our king of text speech, Mr. Skeptical Waves, who has done such good work, and if you can tip him, you should. He does have his own little tip jar that I tip to very regularly. He's trying to figure out if he can sort of get his own little like book publishing business going, because he does have access to these texts, where he can like print them out and things like that. So that's something in the future where the based books or whatever that you want to enjoy might be available for print one day. So it's something that he's working on. But yeah, no, I definitely would agree with you, Stonehat. It's very hard sometimes to get a hold of things. Like, for instance, last year I bought a copy of Reflections of a Russian Statesman, and I have what is allegedly a very good English translation. But because it is a it's an independently published book, it is like a very tiny amount of text on these very tall pages, and it's very hard to like actually read, so the formatting is just atrocious. But I'm trying my best to just be a good soldier and just read through it, because I love this idea where it's literally just a biography or an autobiography, these notes of, working under three different czars, working with the church, working within Russian statesmen, and being a policymaker and someone who made advice on policy. It gives you a really good in depth of like the late 19th century in terms of policymaking within the Russian Empire. And I still need to finish it. So no, I can definitely agree with you, Stonehat, that it sucks if you're a slow reader. It sucks if you're more of an audio person, which is why I love what Skeptical Waves has done. But yeah, no, the actual purchasing of the reading list is bad. So for instance, I do have an Amazon Prime account, and my book list is getting increasingly more expensive and more expensive because these books are really, really rare. Yeah, Glow in the Dark, it's exactly that version. So I definitely need to do it. And if you're asking who the Russian guy is here, I can give you his name, Reflections of a Russian Statesman. And I'm probably going to butcher it, so I'm going to put it in chat, and then I will show it on screen so everyone knows who I'm referring to. But this is who I'm talking about. His name was, there you go, it's up on screen. But yeah, he is the gentleman who wrote this sort of autobiographical, self-reflective text. But yeah, so that's the gentleman. And then Glow in the Dark also has his name on here, and he says that he probably also ghost wrote the manifesto for Unshakable Autocracy. So I will have to probably read that manifesto as well, because I did order for myself a copy of Robert Filmer's Patriarcha. So it'll be a very, very good time, because I do want to read through it, because he essentially, Robert Filmer just gives like this long defense of the divine right of kings, and I kind of want to read it because I have not had that chance yet. So it's always nice to find new books and to find new texts and things like that. And Oren, thank God for him, because he does his own little videos about the books that he's read throughout 2021. He did it last year for 2020. I should probably do something similar so people have an idea of just what on earth I'm reading, because I do read and listen to audiobooks and things like that. So I should probably start doing a better job recording of what I do. But that's what the Prudent Reads episodes are for. So if you're ever interested in what I've been reading or what I think is fun and worth talking about on stream, that's what that series is for. And it's not because, oh, he's a slow reader, he only does X number of books every year or so. No, it's just because sometimes I don't know how I could cover a specific subject, right? Like I'll probably do 2 or 3 more Prudent Reads on Spengler's Decline of the West, because there's so much to cover. I mean, I've covered volume 1, I've covered volume 2, but we only covered like very small snippets of it, right? Like even when I did it with Oren, we covered very small snippets. When I covered it with Astral, we covered maybe 2 or 3 chapters out of, dozens of chapters that are within those books. Those are things that you always come back to, and you always come back to revisit them, because those are such foundational texts, right, in our schools of thought and how we read things. So there's a lot in there that I want to do. So like, for instance, I want to definitely do an episode of what's the word I'm looking for, the book that I'm looking for. I want to do an episode, for instance, of Francis Parker Yockey's Imperium. I got a copy of that. Dan asks, did I give it from Imperium Press? Yes, I did. If you do not support independent book publishers, you should. But I did buy that copy through Imperium Press. But I do get a lot of my more academic stuff through Amazon, because I can get some deals if I know the guy. Let's see here. Let's see. Minoan says, Prudentialist, Amazon has a wish list where others can buy things and set you up on a list. Consider setting one up. I keep getting emails saying that I'm eligible for like business pricing and things like that because technically, um, because of the channel and things like that, how you pay taxes. What I what I need to do for next year, and this is something that is high on my priority list for the channel, is to set up a business and to set up a like an independent corporation or something like that where I can pay myself a salary because that's technically easier on the taxes of the money that you guys give than anything else. So things to keep in mind are on my priority list for that sort of thing. Um, but no, and yeah, I want to, but at the same time, I get really iffy because I don't want people buying things through Amazon. I don't want you guys to make Jeff Bezos richer, which is why I like to support the independent book publishers, whether that's Rogue Scholar Press. For instance, I got my Rogue Scholar Press edition of Spengler's Decline of the West through them. I bought Patriarcha through Imperium Press. I know Antelope Hill's got a great collection as well, so anyone who's got their own independent setup, I will try my best to support them. But don't you pretty much get doxxed when you also set up an Amazon wish list? Yeah, basically, which is why I don't do it. Um, yeah, so that's another reason why. Although I've been asked quite a few times to set up a PO box, so that might happen in the future. Except just setting up a PO box is ridiculously expensive sometimes. I was looking up the pricing for it, and I was like, oh, like for a year, it's X hundreds of dollars. That's fine. But the channel has grown considerably, and I think that it might just be worth doing it because I do like this little community that we've built. I thoroughly do enjoy it. There are the parasocial relationship, believe it or not, is a two-way street, and I am incredibly blessed that just some random guy in the middle of nowhere, Texas, can share his opinions and pontificate on things, and that you guys like it, you guys listen, and you all listen to this. There are no words that can express my gratitude for things like that. I am truly thankful. Let's see. Novo Brannick says, try Scribbage for audiobooks, cheaper and better compared to Audible. Let me go put that on screen in case anyone's interested. But yeah, no, I think that's something to keep in mind, right? But also, right, this is why Mr. Skeptical Waves and Counter Rev Audio have been doing such fantastic work, because they've made things very possible for us to have access to the stuff more or less for free, right? I mean, if you're with Skeptical Waves, you can get access to playlists and chapters early on his Patreon and things like that, and his Subscribe Star. So, yeah. Let's see. Library Vox is also good for free books as well. Let's see. There you go. There's another one as well to take a look at. All that stuff in mind. So there's plenty of great resources out there. Mark838 says, hey, these parasocial relationships may be better if we go to the event. Well, I will shill it. I will be there in February. I will be in Nashville. And in fact, I will be speaking in Nashville. And I have already figured out exactly how I'm going to open up. I will introduce myself and say, don't worry, if you don't know me, you've probably confused my voice with 4 other gentlemen that happen to be in this room. So don't you dare worry. But yeah, no, I will be there in February. I'm very much looking forward to it. And what was funny is I think what I'm going to do is what I want to do is this, actually, because on my way there, how I was mapping it out was that you would have the capacity to see the stop by in Memphis. And of course, if you've seen the meme that's been going around on Twitter, then you will know exactly what I'm referring to. But if you haven't, share screen, then I will show you here. I'm referring to the Bass Pro Shop glass and metal pyramid in in Memphis. So I think that would be a lot of fun, actually, just to stop by and take a picture of that and just be like, have you made your pilgrimage to the Bass Pro Shop pyramid in Non? You should. That would be a lot of fun. Tuesday says, Prudentialist, I'm going to dip out. Just wanted to wish you a happy birthday and a Merry Christmas. Glad to know you, brother. Well, Tuesday, thank you so much for stopping by. It truly does mean so much. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Jedi Knight Anakin Cringewalker says, I'm really hoping to get there from Europe somehow. So are you overseas now? I know that last I heard, I thought you were still in New York, but Cringewalker, but I guess that if you're stuck overseas, I certainly hope that you can travel. But I mean, you got the shots; you should be able to travel. But yeah, no, this is the place that I think I'm going to stop by on my way to the event, and in Memphis, because Memphis is right there at the edge, and then you'll just go up to Nashville on your way there. So I think I'm going to take pictures of it and do that because growing up when we lived overseas, one of the things that we would do is we would always travel back home during the summers, right, to visit family, and you'd always visit either the Bass Pro Shop outside of Dallas or something like that. You always appreciate those things. But the meme has been going around about the men with a time machine, right, where the men goes back to the pharaohs and he's like, oh yeah, we've got one of these in Memphis. These things are huge for Bass Pro Shop, and the pharaoh goes, this Bass Pro Shop must be a very wise and powerful king to deserve such a burial. And I love that meme to death. It's so good. I'm definitely going to stop by though for sure. King of Game says this shop looks occult like nobody's business. Probably just a teeny bit, but it's for outdoorsmen, man. This is where fishermen go to shop. This is Bass Pro, it's the quintessential American thing besides like Cabela or Cabela's and Gander's Mountain, all that sort of stuff. Things that you just truly enjoy. But to me, it'll be like a day drive, so like 10 hours or so. So I definitely think I'm going to go and stop by. We'll I'll have to frog it up on the same flight. Yeah, but for me, it'll be I'm going to drive it for sure because that's a day's drive. For instance, like where I lived, El Paso was like a 12-13 hour drive and things like that. So it'll be a lot of fun. But speaking of fishing, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit since we've been going back and forth and having this conversation with chat, just to give you some like picture of what we're going to be doing in 2022 here in this channel. So as I had mentioned, I'll be at the event in February, and the topic of discussion is going to be foreign policy related, because why not? That is what I am autistically known for. I am, as AA has said in the past, I am the resident geopolitics guy, and so I'm going to live up to that title, and I'll be giving a presentation related to that. But I also want to start putting more focus on that in a more academic sense. So like I was thinking quarterly, right? Maybe every 3 months or so, I would put out like a really well done paper. I was thinking maybe 20 to 30 pages or so, since it is going to be once a quarter, and maybe give an outline or a report on something that I think is worth paying attention to in the future. I had expressed in Telegram and in a couple of chats back and forth that the idea was going to be something about like a think tank or something like that. I think that it would be good for us to start establishing a more professional presence besides just the occasional essay or the occasional YouTube video or the occasional appearance at like a convention or an event. I think that if we have this alternate vision, we have to start putting the blueprints on the ground about things to pay attention to. I think that I want to start doing that in more in-depth and more academic, I suppose, kind of writing. So that's definitely up on there. I want to continue to be writing. So I had announced earlier that I will be submitting some stuff to the Passage Prize. So it's due at the end of the year, so I definitely need to finish. But I will be submitting poetry and a short story that I'll be publishing after I submit it at the end of the year for you all to read and enjoy. So regardless if it wins or not, or however that goes, you'll all be able to enjoy it for your own pleasure to read. I do want to get back more into creative writing. I've had this urge in my mind to write a book or something like that. So that would be something that I'm definitely considering, is to get back into the more creative side and maybe publish something that isn't just purely academic or nonfiction. Maybe just have a collection of poems and verse. Stonehat asks, would be up for doing a Foundations of International Relations on the academic agency. I would have to talk to AA about that. That would be something I've never done anything like that before. I could probably tell AA some quintessential texts to do that if you were to write a course. But I mean, that'd be really awesome. But I don't think I've ever written a course or curriculum or anything like that. I don't think I'd be remotely qualified. I was not a particular, I want to go back to school, for instance, but with all the shop business and then just the money here in the US, I do want to go back and study something, but I don't think I have the patience to be an academic for sure. That's exactly what runs in my mind when it comes to that issue. Steve says geopolitics is more important to the dissident right than it may seem. The mainstream right-wing voter needs to realize that the America global power perpetuates like the wokeness and the anti-Americanism. Yeah, no, it's very true, Steve, that geopolitics, I think, is, and that's the case I'm going to make at the event in February, is how important um, like the geopolitical landscape is. And while you're right, when we talk about how to govern and how power operates, Spangler and Machiavelli and virtually everyone will tell you you have to focus on the domestic as well as the before the international. They're interrelated, but you have to focus on the domestic first. The issue is when we talk about the next regime or we talk about the world at large, we in this interconnected world, in a world where it's innately chaotic, it's very anarchic, the world doesn't pause, right? Like we could change regimes the very next day, right? But you still have to deal with the rest of the outside world, especially because things move so quickly, both in terms of information, technology, troop movements, deployments, etc. You need to have an idea of what you're doing. And if there's one thing that I think Yarvin has been correct about on Grey Mirror, has been the idea that now is the time to start talking and laying the blueprints for whoever comes next. And that's exactly what I wanted to do with my speech. That's exactly what I think I'm going to start doing with these reports every quarter, is try my best to write this outline for what the foreign policy of the next regime is. And so one of the first questions that I got asked was, well, what does the next regime look like? And I don't have a prediction for that. So whether it's a monarchy, a hereditary thing, a neo-cameralist thing, one central authority over this like wide confederation of states, I want it to be applicable to whoever is the foreign minister, the king, the vizier, whatever it may be. So I think for sure that would be helpful. King and Game says, take it from someone who is doing a PhD. It's too much trouble and much more than it's worth. Unless you are planning to set up a think tank or a journal, then credentialism is handy. Yeah, that's the issue, right? Is that I'm just a nobody with a bachelor's degree. Well, technically 2 bachelor's degrees. And I want to go back. I would love to have the I would love to have all of that, which is why that's another thing too, is that I want to start interviewing more serious, like named people, whether that's on Substack or just on YouTube to record it and then put it out, because I like listening to like some of the mainstream names. For instance, like Dr. Mitra of all people, he retweeted the fact that I streamed about his article. I would love to interview him, and I think I'm gonna to give it a shot and things like that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do something like that for sure. Winston Fujimori says, I recently discovered your channel and I love it. Reminder, Medicare streams tomorrow night. He's been wrong about COVID severity, but he's so damn funny and entertaining. Much love. Well, Winston, I greatly appreciate the $10. I really am thankful for it. So in case you don't know, Winston, I don't keep any of the super chat or the subscribe star money. That goes to books, that goes to paying for the premium on StreamYards. But most importantly, you guys make sure I don't pay any money out of pocket when I pay for my anti-rejection medications and things like that matter. So you guys are fantastic, and I am indebted to you all, and I'm very thankful. That's why I said that this parasocial relationship is a two-way street. You guys as patrons and things like that, words cannot express my gratitude. The only thing that we know about the future is that Turnip Seed will be the ruler. I think if there's going to be a next regime, then I think Turnip will be up there leading some kind of Lutheran-esque inquisition towards the American Protestants. That for sure, I think, is coming. And we've kind of been joking around what our jobs would be in sort of this AA group chat that we're all in. And I just simply asked, listen, I don't want to, you can do whatever you want. Just put me in charge of foreign policy. That's all that I want, because that's the one thing I know that I'm good at for sure. So that's the plan. Not sure says, the best white people is that people like you and others in these circles are laying the groundwork for the next regime. Well, I like to certainly hope so. I know that we do have an influence. I know that a lot of us do talk about things, and these things do get heard by other people. It's been fantastic to see just how far to the right in some of these conversations for mainstream pundits have taken these things. And it warms my heart to know that maybe things are moving in a positive direction. And as I've told other people, right, like my goal has, like I've said, I view this as a reconquista. I don't expect myself to live, to see things really improve. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That would be fantastic. But I've always told myself that if I can sit down on my porch at the end of the day and my grandchildren are living in a world that is slightly better than mine, then everything that I have ever done has been worth it, you know? And that's always been my perspective, and that still is sort of my modus operandi, is to make sure that whatever I leave behind, I have indeed made the world a better place for that, my community, and most importantly, my family and my kids. Which is why I think one of my favorite videos of all time is still the Distributists to be right wing in 9 points, because he talks about that teleological need to leave something behind and to have something there. And so, yeah, to me, it's really important. And I think that that's something that we all think about, especially in these communities, about what we can leave behind. And no, Vaza, you're not late. I'll probably be on for a little while longer, so don't worry. And there's still plenty of stuff to get back on. Steve says, given what the foreign policy elite has done in the last 30 years, I think you are more qualified than they are. Well, if it weren't for what they've done for the last 30 years, I don't think I would have had the qualification, because you can simply point to them and point out and say what's wrong and what's happened. But no, it's easy to criticize, but the question is what can you effectively create that when you put it into practice, it doesn't generate a problem. And to me, that's what I'm working on, is I want to create something that I think is sustainable, right? Which is what we've talked about in the past, about resilience, reaction, and realist. So all those things in mind. Big Nig 420, love the name actually. He says for $6.99 Canadian, thank you so much. Sending love, bro. I joined the stream late, but I'm sure that it was great. Well, don't worry, it'll be there for you. At the end, you can watch the entire thing. It's just us interacting with chat, people wishing me, a happy birthday. We were talking about Christmas movies and things like that. So plenty of stuff to do. It'll be a good time. So enjoy it, and thank you so much for the help. Raging Mandrill says, Prude, if you do live to see it, it will be because the regime collapses and not because we brought it down. Most likely, right? And that's the other thing too, is that the question that gets asked a lot of the times by people that are sort of waking up to these things about like regime policy is that how does the regime sort of maintain legitimacy when things start going bad, or when you go to war with like China or Russia, when you're having like thousands of people have casualties very, very quickly? Is anyone ready for that kind of cost? That's the same sort of question, right, about when it comes to collapse itself, is that you know the human cost of what you're asking for. I love that scene in The Big Short where Brad Pitt's character is sort of telling you about like when the unemployment rate rises, about how many people die. And that's something to always keep in mind is that we can talk about these things in abstraction, but I think it's very important that if it does get to that point, right, like you've got to be prepared and you've got to be aware of that. And I hope that you do have a plan. That's why, like, if you're very interested, there's a series of a couple of books called Escape from the City, I think by Travis Cochran, that you should definitely buy if you're very serious about that sort of thing, about sustainability and taking care of yourself and being self-reliant, because those are very easy to digest, how to do it with a small living space outside of the city. I highly recommend it. So Hunger says, ambassador to His Apostolic Majesty's government to Eurasia, the Prudentialist. I certainly hope that AM gets some kind of official educational spot teaching people proper history of European affairs. All that thing, all those things come to mind. Paleogos asks the most important question of today's stream. Most important question in the world, Prude, Caesar or Mr. House? I choose Mr. House like 99% of the time. I go for Mr. House, or if I'm feeling a little rambunctious, I will choose Yes Man, just for shits and grins. But no, I choose Mr. House 99% of the time. I love Fallout New Vegas. I love it a lot. But yeah, I usually go for Mr. House just because it's sort of like the weird techno reactionary accelerationist position. Someone said that Mr. House is like the Nick Land option of Fallout New Vegas, and he never elaborated on that. And I love that that's the take. And I'm just going to run with it. So yeah, I pick Mr. House. I pick the Nick Land techno accelerationist, techno autocracy every time. It's a lot of fun. Not to mention, I just enjoy Rene Bourgeois' voice. I'm a huge Deep Space Nine fan, so the fact that I get to talk to Odo back and forth, things like that, I I really enjoy his character, and I always enjoy his voice. Tanya says, God bless and Merry Christmas as well, Prude. Glad that you got through the coof. Yes, I'm very blessed indeed. And like I had mentioned earlier, the good Lord has plans for me, and apparently it was definitely to live, to live and to live a good life and to continue doing what I'm doing. He's got a plan, and I'm not worried. So thank you so much. I'm still recovering. My energy level is still not yet what it used to be, but we're doing quite well. Glow in the Dark says House, then Independent, then Caesar, literal bandits. Elijah kills everybody, then the NCR. Yeah, I would go with that. That's a pretty good take. House is definitely better than the rest of them, but yeah. I've done one Caesar's Legion run, and I don't like I just don't like the quest line for the NCR or Caesar when it comes to them taking power. Although the quest line where you take care of President Kimball is absolutely hilarious. Not sure says next year millennial. I hope so. I would love to come on. So if that is definitely a goal for 2022 is to be on millennial next year, and hopefully I will be putting in the work to have earned it. When people were asking about it this year, like I said, I don't think I had earned it yet or anything like that. So the goal is to work hard and to put out good stuff and to continue to improve both in production quality and my writing and journalistic sort of approach that we are on next year. That's the goal, because it's not that it's a setback; it is a goal to achieve in order to prove that you've done the good work and that you've done it. So yeah, no, that's the plan for next year. Jedi Knight Anakin Cringewalker for $5 US says, it is important to remember that the time between Rome allowing German refugees into the empire and those refugees sacking Rome was just 44 months. Well, rip Europe, right? I mean, the US isn't any better, neither is the UK, but I would not be surprised. But it has definitely been around that time frame from like 2015-ish or so to now. So who knows? Not to mention that the German government is pushing for amnesty, so Lord only knows what is going to come next. But thank you again so much, Mr. Cringewalker. All of this will make sure that I can buy more based books. Vaza says, do you ever read about Civil War battles or just military campaigns in general? I do. And like I mentioned earlier on stream, Vaza, I have I got some books passed down to me from family that are sort of pre-1965 texts on the Civil War from the Southern side. And actually, I'm not too far from a minor footnote in the American Civil War in terms of history. And there's actually a memorial to it not too far from where I live that I might stop by and take a picture and do a little video on for you guys. So yeah. Yeah, Vasa, I definitely do read about it. And I like reading about various military battles and campaigns, especially Roman stuff, which is why, again, I'm very thankful that Apostolic Majesty and the Pasta Posse are a thing. I've learned so much about European history from them. So history is one of those things that you cannot ignore. And especially for what I do, right, when commenting on international relations and geopolitics, if you don't know the history of the region, or if you don't have a very broad idea, especially like the last 50 to 120 years, then no, you can't. You're not going to give your best analysis. Your take is going to be missing some key details. So no, I definitely do read about those things. Stonehat says, does anyone here play Faster Than Light? I have sunk hundreds of hours into it. Well, I am on my old crappy laptop streaming right now with my very nice microphone right now from where I record. And on my Windows 10-esque desktop bar, I have my recording stuff and some snipping tools. But I also have FTL Advanced Edition right there next to it. I have sunk an ungodly amount of time into it. Such a great game to pass the time. It's a fun roguelike. If you have not played it, I highly recommend that you do. But it appears that Stonehat and I have that in common. Now everyone's just New Vegas posting in the chat. King of Games says, Prudentialist, when will you get the red pill on 40K and the Imperium of Man? When I should probably take the time and actually get into it, because I've never played with the minis. I've never got into the books. I never got into it. I just never did. I read a ton of like Asimov and Orson Scott Card and things like that. So I definitely for sure have been having my own science fiction kicks. But yeah, no, I should probably get into 40K. It's one of my great sort of right-wing heresies is that I never got into into 40K like everybody else did, much to everyone else's chagrin, because I know like Clossington's into it. I know that Morgoth's done reviews of it. I know that Dave plays it, the distributist, like all of that jazz, right? So I know I'm terribly, terribly not in that area. Jay asks, is anybody hyped for Elden Ring? I did not get to play the network test or anything, but it looked good, and I do want to play it. I'm looking forward to it. The map looks huge. Like that, they look like they're doing something completely different. I know that everyone's like, oh, but the animations look the same. Well, it's almost as if From Software, does they're iterative, right? Things, of course, are going to be different or the same now. Like I'm not surprised. Winston Fujimori says, all men born after 98 know is rightist politics. Charge they phone, go to church, watch live streams. Smash. Oh my God. Smash Steps says, eat hot chip and tell the truth. Well, minus the Smash Steps says, I would argue that probably a lot of that is right. But thankfully, I was born before 1998, so maybe that does not apply to me. At least Games Workshop is paused. Well, I don't think that matters. People still enjoy their games and their miniatures. I know that it's still predominantly white, nerdy, and male culture and things like that. So it doesn't matter. People still have what they've got, and I think that's what matters. And as Big Nig points out, that everything is now. So you have to gatekeep your community. You have to gatekeep what you love and your hobbies and things like that, and make the most of it. And it's as simple as that, right? Mongolian Doggerland says, anyone before that then barely understood half of that. Yeah, that's the thing. Like I live in that sweet spot in terms of being born where I can kind of understand Zoomer memes, but other times I don't. And so the day I'm officially old is when I stop understanding when I stop understanding Zoomer humor. That's the day I'm officially old. Things like that is what matters. But yeah, no, and I mean Games Workshop and all those others. And I think what's the word? Even Razorfist has been talking about that same issue with like the BattleTech community, right? Which is why you have to gatekeep and why you should pay attention to who you play your games with and who's starting to get involved. Because I think that meme where they come in and you have like, oh, like look at her and she's coming in here and all that jazz. So no, I think it's important that you don't want your community to turn to shit and all that jazz. Tanya, you've been asking me to do that with your Zoomer no cap for real. And I looked it up. This is an anime character, and I'm not doing that. I looked this up earlier. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. It's not happening. I don't really watch a lot of anime. It's not happening. No anime girl for Frog of the Week. It's not happening. Maybe if Sunday, hold on. When is Sunday, April 1st? Is Sunday in April 1st? April 2022. No, April 1st is a Friday. So no, it's not happening. 95 is an excellent vintage. It's an excellent Windows vintage. King of Games asked me if I've seen the new Matrix. No, and to be honest with you, I haven't seen like the original Matrix trilogy in like 20 years. Or like no. I think I watched the original Matrix back when I was like maybe like 10, so probably not less than 20 years. But no, like I haven't seen them for sure. I have not seen the new Matrix, and I have no desire to either. I've watched everybody follow it. I mean, and for anyone, and the chat's going nuts over anime. As for the anime question, I will inform you of this. I have read various parts of Berserk, the manga, and I have watched the entire running of Cowboy Bebop, and that's about it. I have not watched. I don't watch anything else. I don't watch anything that's on Netflix. I don't watch anything that's on Crunchyroll or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea. I got asked not too long ago what kind of what kind of television do I watch and things like that. And I'm just like, well, most of the time I don't have time to watch TV because I'm watching everybody else's streams or their videos or AM's lectures or Skeptical Waves' audiobooks. Is what I'm listening to. I do enjoy like classic sitcoms and things like that. So if you were to ask me what's my favorite sitcom, I'll tell you that I've seen every episode of Frasier at least twice. Um, Probably more than that. Like Frasier, Wings, Cheers. I love those old sitcoms, and things like that. And yeah, so that's sort of my television watching, and then movies. It just depends. I like to watch older stuff. There hasn't been too many new films that I've enjoyed. And the last movie I saw in theaters was like, good God, at the end of 2019, I watched 1917 in theaters, and I don't think I've been to a movie theater since. I definitely don't plan on doing it anytime soon. I haven't seen any good films or any films that look that interesting to me. Um, but yeah, I'll keep that in mind for the future, though. Is that I do miss the movie theater experience, especially after you kind of spoil yourself and you go to like an Alamo Draft House. But I don't feel like I've missed out on much. It's not like I've missed too many of what I would consider good movies in the last couple of years. And everything that has been made has kind of been very preachy. Like they're that emphasis on like don't look up, and I'm like I'm not gonna. We're good. I don't need to be watching that sort of stuff. Oh, JN says, I don't go to the cinema anyways because they don't accept negative coof tests anymore, only recovered and in the vaxxed. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I can live without it, I think, nowadays anyways. Besides, I have based books to catch up on. But anyways, we're past the hour and a half mark, and my brother will be coming up shortly, and I'll be with family for the rest of the day. So I wanted to thank you all for tuning in. Your super chats have been greatly appreciated. And as for my announcements, and I will have a Christmas real talk available for you all on the 26th. And it'll just sort of give you my thoughts on Christmas, my sort of Christmas address, and what we are expecting coming into 2022 and what's to come next, both for the channel and for the future and what we should be doing to prepare for it. And I think that you all will enjoy it. Like I said, I don't want to leave anyone black-pilled on Christmas or on New Year's, of course. That's definitely not the plan. But that's on there. And then on the 31st, so New Year's Eve, I'll be putting out a video on the People's Pottage. So I am going to make sure that we finish strong this year for sure. But anyways, for all of you, I wish you a very Merry Christmas. I hope that you spend time with your families, and that many blessings be upon all of you, despite these difficult times, regardless of where you live in the world. So may God bless you and your families, and may you all take care, and most importantly, be prudent and take care.